Have you ever felt like healing is just out of reach? Like no matter how many doctors you see, books you read, or things you try, something inside still feels unsettled? What if I told you, you're not broken, you don't need fixing, you simply need to come home, to yourself? In this video, we're not chasing miracle cures or quick fixes. We're slowing down, we're listening to the quiet wisdom of the body, and remembering that healing isn't something we force, it's something we allow. So take a breath, let your shoulders drop. You didn't come here by accident. You came here because some part of you is ready, not to fight harder, but to come home. Let's begin. The real source of healing. What if I told you that 85% of what we call modern illness doesn't begin in the body at all? Not in your blood, not in your cells, not even in your genes. It begins somewhere far more subtle, yet far more powerful: your mind. We live in a world obsessed with cures, new medications, new diets, new supplements, a constant hunt for something external that will finally fix us. And yet, have you noticed? Some people recover from illness effortlessly, while others with the exact same condition seem to suffer for years. Some develop pain where no injury exists. Others heal in silence, even without treatment. Have you ever wondered why? Now, let's step away from modern hospitals for a moment. Imagine a remote Himalayan village, thousands of feet above sea level. No pharmacies, no lab tests, no wellness clinics. And yet, you'll find men and women in their 80s and 90s still climbing mountain trails, still laughing, still breathing with ease. No prescriptions, no probiotics, just presence, simplicity, stillness. So, what do they know that we don't? Here's a quiet truth we rarely hear. Healing isn't something you buy. It's something you remember. It's not hidden in a pill bottle. It's not buried in a supplement stack. It lives within you, closer than your next breath, waiting. But you won't find it by adding more. You'll find it by subtracting. Not by fixing the body, but by quieting the mind. Because the body was never broken. It was just trying to speak. We've been taught to fight symptoms, to battle disease, to conquer fatigue. But in Buddhist teachings, true healing doesn't begin with effort, it begins with surrender. And I don't mean giving up. I mean letting go of the belief that your body is the enemy, of the pressure to get better on a deadline, of the assumption that healing is something outside of you, because it's not. Real healing is soft, subtle, still. It begins the moment you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and begin asking, "What are you trying to show me?" Take a breath with me right now. Slowly, let your shoulders drop, let your thoughts settle, and ask yourself this simple, radical question. What if I'm not broken? What if I'm simply out of alignment with myself? You see, the body speaks in whispers. A stiff neck after an argument, a stomach that tightens before a hard conversation, a headache that arrives the moment you step into a stressful room. But instead of listening, we silence those messages. We numb the pain. We power through. And slowly, we forget. Our body was never trying to punish us. It was trying to protect us. In Buddhist philosophy, the body and mind are not two separate things. They're reflections of the same awareness. One breathes, the other speaks. When one is in pain, the other responds. And that's why the path to healing is not about doing more. It's about returning, coming home to the inner intelligence that never left you. Because the truth is, your body already knows how to heal. Just like a cut closes on its own. Just like a wound knows how to scab. You were designed for restoration. The question is, can you create the conditions for healing to happen? Not by force, but by presence, by attention, by learning how to listen to yourself deeply. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in silence with your body, without judgment, without trying to fix it? Have you ever placed your hand on your heart and simply said, "I'm here now"? Most people never do. They wait for the crisis, they wait for the breakdown, and then they try to assemble themselves back together. But what if healing doesn't require you to be more positive, more perfect, more productive? What if it simply asks you to be more present? That's the invitation of this video. Not to chase the next big cure, but to slow down, to listen, to feel, and to return. Because healing, real healing, doesn't come when you conquer your body. It comes when you make peace with it. Let me leave you with this. There is no wellness protocol more powerful than stillness, no supplement more transformative than attention, and no medicine more ancient than your breath. The monks in the mountains aren't thriving because they've discovered some secret serum. They're thriving because they've learned how to sit in stillness, to breathe with reverence, to let their bodies speak without interruption. And maybe, just maybe, that's the healing we've been missing all along. So before we go deeper, take a moment, close your eyes, place a hand on your heart, and whisper to yourself, "I'm here now. I hear you." Let's begin. Part 1. Your mind, your medicine. Let me ask you something simple, yet quietly life-changing. Have you ever noticed that your body reacts to emotions even before your mind fully understands them? Like how your shoulders stiffen after a tense phone call, or how your stomach knots up when you're about to have a hard conversation, or how your chest feels heavy, not because you're out of breath, but because your heart is quietly carrying something? That's not coincidence, that's communication. We tend to treat the body like a machine. When something hurts, we assume it's broken. And when it's broken, we rush to fix it. Medication, manipulation, suppression. But what if your body isn't malfunctioning? What if it's messaging? You see, emotions aren't just passing clouds in the mind. They live in the body. Unprocessed anger becomes tight jaws. Unfelt grief settles into the chest. Unspoken anxiety wraps itself around the gut like a clenched fist. And we've gotten so used to these sensations, we often forget that they are not permanent residents, they're signals. In Buddhist psychology, there's a simple, powerful truth. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. The body will feel discomfort. That's part of being alive. But suffering? Suffering is what happens when the mind resists the pain, when it labels it, judges it, tries to outrun it. So let's pause here, because this is the doorway most of us miss. Healing doesn't begin when you add something. It begins when you finally stop. Stop fighting, stop fixing, stop running from the discomfort, and instead just feel. Not with panic, not with judgment, but with curiosity, with presence, with compassion. Because in that stillness, something ancient begins to awaken, something that has always known how to heal. Let me share something personal with you. For almost 4 years, I lived with a persistent, quiet pressure in my chest. Not quite pain, not quite panic, just this subtle heaviness that never fully left. I did all the things I was supposed to. I went to the doctor, got blood work done, changed my diet, tried every supplement they recommended. Every result came back normal, and yet nothing about the way I felt was normal. Then one night, after an especially long day, I sat down. No goals, no guided meditation, no breathwork app, just silence, just being. And in that silence, something surfaced, a memory I hadn't touched in decades. The day my father died. The grief I never gave myself permission to feel. The words I never spoke. The goodbye I never truly said. I didn't collapse into a dramatic breakdown. I didn't scream or sob like in the movies. I simply wept. Quietly, dignified, almost gratefully. Because in that moment, my body finally felt heard after years of whispering through symptoms. And the next morning, that pressure in my chest was still there, but softer, gentler, no longer screaming, just present, acknowledged. And sometimes that's all the body needs to begin healing. Not more medicine, not more effort, just the simple act of being seen. The more I've sat with others on their healing journeys, the more I've come to see this truth. Most of us don't treat our bodies like sacred vessels. We treat them like battlefields. We try to conquer fatigue, push through headaches, numb the tension, override the signals. But here's the radical truth. Your body is not fighting you. It's fighting for you. Every ache is not an enemy. It's a message. Every symptom is not a malfunction. It's a request. And every request is quietly asking the same thing. Please listen. And slowly, science is catching up with this ancient wisdom. Harvard Medical School found that up to 90% of doctor visits are related to stress. Not stress in your imagination, stress in your biology. Stress rewires your brain. It suppresses your immune system. It inflames your gut. It tightens your muscles. It changes your blood chemistry, your sleep, your heart rate, even your memory. And yet, just 10 minutes a day of intentional mindfulness has been shown to begin reversing these effects. Let that sink in. Not 10 new prescriptions, not 10 self-help books, just 10 minutes of stillness. That's not mysticism, that's measurable biology. But it gets even deeper. Psychologists now know what many Buddhist monks have said for centuries. What the mind suppresses, the body expresses. If you don't feel your grief, your liver might. If you don't acknowledge your anxiety, your stomach will. If you don't release your anger, your joints could hold on to it. It's not about blame, it's about understanding. Your body is not betraying you, it's reflecting you. And yes, you might be thinking, but I've ignored this for years. Is it too late? No. Because here's something no lab test can measure, but every soul knows deep down. The body never gives up on you. It waits, quietly, patiently, like a loyal friend you haven't called in years, but who still picks up on the first ring. Healing doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. Even the law of attraction echoes this. If you constantly think, "I'm falling apart," your body doesn't just hear it, it responds. But if you begin to speak to yourself differently, if you shift your inner story to, "I'm healing, I'm listening, I'm learning," then your cells begin to lean in. Your nervous system begins to soften. Your mind and body stop pulling in different directions and start walking together again. You're not a machine to be repaired. You're a living system to be heard. I often tell my students, your body is not a broken object. It's a wise old tree. Its roots run deep. Its rings carry your stories. Its bark holds scars, but also strength. And you don't fix a tree. You nourish it. You give it light. You make space for it to unfold. So tonight, try something simple. Before bed, place your hand on your heart. Close your eyes and say quietly, "I hear you. I'm here now." You might be surprised at what rises. You might feel grief or gratitude, or maybe just stillness. Whatever comes, let it come. Because most people spend a lifetime trying to fix their bodies, but few ever learn to listen. And listening, that's where healing begins. So now we ask, if the body isn't the enemy, if pain isn't punishment, then what is it trying to tell us? In the next chapter, we'll explore something profound. Why emotional pain that isn't expressed doesn't disappear. It just finds a new place to hide. Let's keep going. We're just getting started. Part 2. when emotions hide in the body. Have you ever thought of your body as a living diary? A record of every joy, every heartbreak, every moment you've swallowed your truth? Most of us don't realize this, but the body remembers everything the mind tries to forget. Every unspoken goodbye, every silent scream, every "I'm fine" when you were anything but, they don't vanish. They settle. They live in your muscles, your heartbeat, your breath. Think about it for a second. When was the last time your chest tightened and you didn't know why? Or when you couldn't sleep, not because of caffeine or noise, but because your mind refused to unclench its grip? That's not random. That's your body holding on to something you haven't let yourself feel. Buddhist teachings remind us that suffering is not just about external events. It's about what we hold on to, what we refuse to let pass through us. Your body is your autobiography. There's a phrase I often share with my students. Your body is your autobiography. It tells your life story, whether you give it permission or not. For example, have you noticed how grief often sits in the chest? It's as if every unshed tear becomes a quiet weight pressing down day after day. Or how anxiety curls up in the stomach, twisting and turning, waiting for release. Or how anger simmers in the jaw and neck, making every movement feel heavier. And we ignore these signs. We drink more coffee to fight the fatigue. We take a pill to silence the headache. We scroll on our phones to distract ourselves from that quiet unease. But what if, instead of silencing the signals, we learned to listen? What might your body be trying to tell you? The woman who never cried for her mother. Let me share a story I will never forget. There was a woman, let's call her Anna, who came to one of my retreats. She was in her 60s, a strong, capable woman who had spent her entire life taking care of everyone else, her children, her husband, her aging parents, but never herself. On the second day of silent walking meditation, something happened. Anna stopped mid-step. She just stood there, trembling, and then she began to cry. Not a small, polite tear, but a deep, soul-shaking cry. Later, when we sat together, she whispered, "I just realized, I never got to grieve my mother. She died and I was too busy holding the family together. I never let myself cry." That moment changed her, not because she cried, but because she finally allowed herself to feel. And here's the most extraordinary part. The chronic shoulder pain she had been carrying for years, pain she thought was just part of aging, began to ease in the days that followed. She described it as if her body had been holding her grief like a clenched fist, and when she opened to it, her body finally let go. When suppression becomes illness. Modern science is catching up to what spiritual traditions have known for centuries. Emotions that are not expressed don't disappear. They turn inward. Repressed grief, shame, or anger doesn't just vanish. It lingers like stagnant water. Over time, it seeps into the body, manifesting as chronic inflammation, fatigue, or even disease. A growing body of research links chronic stress and suppressed emotions to autoimmune disorders, cardiovascular disease, and depression. Why? Because the mind and body are not separate. When your mind says, "I can't deal with this right now," your body doesn't forget. It stores the memory, often in the form of tension or imbalance. The science behind this truth. Psychologists have found that when you suppress emotions, cortisol, the stress hormone, stays elevated. Over time, high cortisol wreaks havoc. It weakens your immune system, disrupts your sleep, slows down healing. But here's the good news. When you allow yourself to feel, you begin to heal. Simple practices like expressive writing, therapy, or somatic meditation, where you focus on bodily sensations with curiosity and compassion, have been shown to reduce cortisol, balance heart rhythms, and even regulate immune function. This isn't just about crying or venting. It's about making space. Space for what was once locked away. Space for your body to release what it's been quietly holding. Are you carrying what was never yours to hold? Let me ask you, what are you carrying that was never meant to be yours alone? The disappointment you never spoke about, the grief you were told to get over, the anger you were taught to swallow because good people don't get angry. What if those unspoken truths are still living inside you, shaping your posture, your energy, your health? I often invite people to do something simple but powerful. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and ask your body, what are you holding for me? You might be surprised at what surfaces: a memory, a feeling, a sudden heaviness in your throat or chest. Don't run from it. Just notice it. Breathe with it. Because awareness itself is the beginning of release. Strength is not holding it all together. In our culture, we are taught that strength means holding it all together. Don't cry. Be tough. Keep moving. But real strength? It's the opposite. It's the courage to let things fall apart when they need to let yourself feel without shame or fear. I've seen this again and again. The moment someone gives themselves permission to feel deeply without judgment, their body exhales, their nervous system softens, their healing begins. A practice to begin today. Here's something I'd like you to try tonight. Take out a notebook, write a letter, not to anyone else, but to your body. Start with, "Dear body, I'm listening." Ask it, what pain have I ignored? What have I been holding on to? Then let the words flow. No one has to read this but you. You might be surprised by what you discover. Sometimes the act of simply acknowledging your body's story is enough to lighten its burden. The path forward. So here's the truth I want you to take with you today. Your body isn't against you. It's your ally. It's the most loyal friend you'll ever have. Even when you've ignored it, it's been carrying you, breathing for you, beating for you, whispering, "I'm here." And when you listen, really listen, you'll start to see something miraculous. Healing doesn't always come from doing more. It often comes from feeling more, from allowing your body to speak its truth, and trusting that you are strong enough to hear it. We've explored how unspoken emotions shape our health, but this is just the beginning. Because what happens when we take this a step deeper? When we not only release the past, but begin to meet each moment, each breath, with presence and trust. In the next chapter, we'll explore how mindfulness and awareness can transform not just your health, but your entire way of being. Let's keep going. Part 3. Aging, Change, and the Medicine of Acceptance. Let's begin with a question many of us quietly carry. What if aging isn't a decline, but a deep return? We live in a culture obsessed with staying young, anti-aging serums, filtered photos. The word old has become an insult, something to fix, deny, or hide. But what if that's not the truth? What if aging isn't something going wrong, but something going right? In the West, we've been taught to fear time, to see every gray hair as a threat, every wrinkle as a flaw. And so we resist, we inject, we chase youth like a ghost. But in Buddhist wisdom, impermanence is not the enemy. It's the teacher. It's not something to run from. It's something to bow to. A tree doesn't grieve the falling of its leaves. It lets go, gracefully, because it trusts the process. It knows that shedding is not the end. It's simply part of becoming. So too with us. Aging is not decline. It's clarification. The Buddha once taught that everything conditioned is in a constant state of change. This isn't a tragedy. It's a truth. And when we accept it, something miraculous happens. We stop trying to hold on. We stop gripping so tightly to what was, and begin to open ourselves to what is. Because aging isn't just the body changing, it's the soul clarifying. You begin to see what really matters. You become more you, not less. But here's the part that really shook me the first time I heard it.
A landmark study from Yale University found that people who held a positive view of aging lived 7.5 years longer than those who didn't. 7.5 years. That's more than the longevity you'd get from quitting smoking, more than daily exercise, more than eating vegetables. Think about that. It's not just what you do, it's what you believe about yourself that shapes your lifespan. So, when you look in the mirror and say, "I'm getting old," ask yourself, what does that sentence really mean? And more importantly, what does your body hear when you say it? You are not invisible. You are becoming visible to yourself. One of the most painful parts of aging isn't physical, it's emotional. Many people reach a certain age and begin to feel invisible, as if the world has moved on without them, as if their stories, their wisdom, their presence no longer matter. But let me offer another view. What if aging isn't about disappearing? What if it's about reappearing to yourself? What if this is the time to become seen not by the world, but by your own eyes? To recognize your value not by how fast you move, but by how deeply you see. I once met a woman, 78 years old. She didn't run marathons. She didn't have a wellness blog or an Instagram following. But when she entered a room, the air changed. She had that kind of peace that made you want to sit beside her and just breathe. When I asked her what her secret was, she smiled and said, "I stopped believing I was old. I just say thank you every time I wake up breathing." She wasn't in denial. She had arthritis. Her hands trembled as she poured tea. She had lost her partner. But she carried something our culture doesn't often talk about: dignity. That quiet, unshakable grace that doesn't come from youth, but from presence. Meaning is medicine. Let's be honest. Aging without purpose feels like decay, but aging with purpose, that feels like ripening. There's a Tibetan teaching that says, "Don't ask how long you'll live, ask how deeply you'll live while you're here." The truth is, we don't stop living when we get older. We stop living when we stop feeling needed, when we lose our why. Purpose isn't a luxury, it's a vital sign. And science agrees. Studies show that elders who feel a sense of meaning, even something as simple as mentoring, gardening, or teaching their grandchild to bake, show increased brain activity in regions associated with joy, memory, and longevity. One study from the JAMA Network found that individuals with a strong sense of life purpose had lower mortality rates and were less likely to suffer from chronic illness. In other words, your why may be more powerful than your what. You don't have to save the world. You just have to stay connected. Now, don't get me wrong. Purpose doesn't have to mean writing a book or launching a foundation at 72. It can be as simple as tending a rose bush, feeding the birds each morning, or saying, "I want to keep showing my grandchildren how to laugh." You don't have to do more. You just have to stay connected. To yourself, to others, to the earth beneath your feet. Because connection is what keeps the nervous system alive. When we isolate, the body starts to slow, not just because of age, but because the soul begins to shrink. Aging is not a punishment. It's a sacred threshold. The question is not, what have I lost? The question is, what am I ready to return to? Letting go with grace. Let's talk honestly now. There are mornings when your body creaks like an old chair. There are days when you forget what you walked into the room for. And sometimes the mirror reflects a version of you you barely recognize. And that's okay. In Buddhism, we don't try to cover the cracks. We learn to see through them, to witness the light shining through the places we once thought were flaws. Think of a fruit on the tree. When it's young, it's hard, shiny, sometimes sour. But when it ripens, it softens, it sweetens, it deepens. In the same way, as we ripen, we become nourishment. Not just for others, but for our own soul. Aging isn't about fading, it's about distillation. There's a term in Zen called beginner's mind. It means to meet each moment as if it were brand new. And here's the beautiful paradox. Even at 60, 70, 80, you are not running out of time. You are running deeper into truth. You are not becoming less. You are becoming distilled. Essence over excess. Wisdom over noise. Presence over performance. And no, you don't have to love every wrinkle. You don't have to pretend to enjoy every creak in your bones. But you can shift your story from resistance to reverence. From why is this happening to me to what is this teaching me? That shift alone changes everything. A question for you. So let me ask you with love, what belief about aging have you inherited that no longer serves you? Is it the idea that aging means fading? That joy is only for the young? That meaning belongs to the productive? If so, can you lay that belief down? Write it down, burn it, release it, and replace it with something softer, something truer. Like, every year I grow lighter, wiser, and closer to what matters. Let that be your new mantra. Let that be your healing. You are still becoming. Here's the most important truth I can leave you with today. You're not done. If you're still breathing, you're still becoming. And becoming is its own medicine. The world doesn't need your youth. It needs your depth, your stillness, your presence, your story. So whether you're 45 or 85, this isn't the end of your healing. It's the beginning of your awakening. Because the body may change, but your light, that's eternal. So, now that we've seen how purpose breathes life into every stage of aging, let's go even deeper. Because healing isn't just about the mind or body. It's about the space between them. The quiet place where awareness meets presence. In the next chapter, we'll explore how your breath isn't just keeping you alive. It's guiding you back to peace. Let's continue.
Part 4. The second arrow, when pain becomes suffering. There's a quiet teaching from the Buddha that has the power to change your entire relationship with pain. It goes like this. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. At first glance, that sounds impossible, doesn't it? If you've ever dealt with chronic illness, grief, heartbreak, or emotional burnout, you know that pain can be overwhelming, mentally, physically, spiritually. But the Buddha wasn't denying pain. He was pointing to something far more subtle and far more liberating. He called it the 2 arrows. Let's imagine this together. You're walking through the forest and suddenly you're struck by an arrow. It hurts. That's the first arrow, the physical or emotional pain that life brings. It could be an illness, a breakup, a loss, a betrayal. This first arrow is often out of your control. It's part of being human. But then something else happens. You begin to panic. You start replaying the moment in your head. Why me? You imagine it happening again. What if this never ends? You blame yourself. Maybe I deserved this. And before you know it, you fired a second arrow, but this time into your own mind. That second arrow isn't the pain itself. It's your reaction to the pain, the fear, the resistance, the judgment, the mental suffering. And that, more often than not, is what truly hurts us. The loop we don't know we're in. Modern neuroscience now confirms what the Buddha taught thousands of years ago. Studies using fMRI scans show that chronic pain often doesn't stem from an active injury. The wound has healed, but the brain continues to send danger signals. Why? Because the mind got stuck in a loop. It learned to expect pain, to look for it, to prepare for it, constantly. The nervous system, doing its job, says, this hurt once, it might hurt again. And so it tenses, it contracts, it braces. Not because there's real danger now, but because there once was. Over time, this becomes a habit. Pain becomes more than a sensation. It becomes a belief, a story, a reflex. How the mind multiplies pain. Let's say you stub your toe. That's the first arrow. Ouch.
But then you curse yourself. You think about how clumsy you are. You replay the moment all day. You worry that you broke something. You tell everyone about it for hours. Now the toe isn't just sore. Your mind is spinning. You've turned a twinge into torment. Sound familiar? This is the second arrow in action. And it doesn't only happen with physical pain. It happens with loneliness, with regret, with fear, with aging, with every place we've been wounded and then built a mental cage around the wound. Meditators and pain, what the brain shows. Here's something fascinating. In brain scans of experienced meditators, researchers found that they still felt pain, but they didn't suffer from it in the same way. Their pain centers lit up, but the secondary suffering, the overthinking, the catastrophizing, did not. Why? Because they had learned to meet the first arrow without firing the second. They didn't resist the pain. They witnessed it. They let pain be pain, without turning it into agony. And that, more often than not, is what truly hurts us. One of the most striking proofs, phantom limb pain. Let's take one of the most extreme examples. People who've lost a limb often report feeling real pain in the arm or leg that's no longer there. How is that possible? Because pain isn't only created by the body. It's created by the mind's memory of the body. That pain is real, but it's also a story the brain keeps telling itself. And if the mind can create pain that shouldn't exist, it can also uncreate pain that does. Breathing into healing, how the second arrow dissolves. So, how do we stop firing the second arrow? It begins with awareness, noticing when the mind starts spiraling, interrupting the reflex to judge, to resist, to cling. And then, breathing. Not shallow, anxious breaths, but deep, intentional, grounding breath. Because the breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. Practical techniques for rewiring the second arrow. Let me share a few tools that blend Buddhist wisdom with neuroscience-backed practices. 1. The 4-7-8 breath. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. Repeat this cycle 4 times. Why it works? The extended exhale activates the vagus nerve, shifting the body from fight or flight into rest and digest. This breath alone can lower heart rate, calm the mind, and break the loop of reactivity. Used by Navy SEALs, taught by monks, backed by science. 2. Alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana. Close your right nostril and inhale through the left. Hold. Close the left nostril and exhale through the right. Then switch. Why it works? This balances the left, logical, and right, emotional hemispheres of the brain. A 2020 study showed it reduced anxiety faster than some medications. 3. Metta-meditation, loving kindness. Instead of resisting the pain, send it compassion. Repeat silently. May I be gentle with myself. May I listen without fear. May I meet this pain with presence. Studies show metta increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's emotional regulator, while quieting pain centers. The fire breath from the mountains of Tibet. For those ready to go deeper, Tibetan monks practice a technique called tumo, or inner fire breath. It involves rapid breathing followed by visualization of heat at the navel. It's intense, it's ancient, and it's transformative. This breath has been shown to increase body temperature, stimulate metabolism, and regulate pain response. It's used not to escape discomfort, but to meet it directly, with power, with energy, with trust. The mind can heal or hurt. This is where it all comes together. Your thoughts aren't harmless background noise. They are signals your body listens to. If your inner story is, "This is unbearable, I can't do this," then your nervous system tenses accordingly. But if your story becomes, "I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm safe," then your body shifts with you. Every breath becomes a signal of safety. Every pause becomes a doorway out of suffering. The second arrow is a choice. You can't always control the first arrow. Life will bring illness, loss, and difficulty. But the second arrow? That one you get to choose. You can choose presence over panic, breath over blame, compassion over control. And in that choice, you reclaim your power. You stop being the victim of pain and start becoming the witness of healing. One last thought before we continue. So the next time life sends you a sharp moment, a trigger, a tension, a deep ache, pause, take a breath, place your hand on your heart and ask, is this the first arrow or the second? And let that simple awareness be the beginning of your freedom. Because healing isn't about avoiding pain. It's about changing our relationship with it. And sometimes the most powerful act of self-love is not to fix, but to feel. To stop fighting the waves and learn how to float. Next, we'll go even deeper into where the pain hides when we don't feel it, how trauma gets stored in the body, and how to finally let it go. Let's keep going.
Part 5. Where trauma hides, the body remembers. Take a slow breath with me. Feel your shoulders relax. Let your eyes soften. And just for a moment, listen inward. Because today, we're not talking about abstract pain. We're talking about the kind that lives in your bones. The kind that whispers in your breath, hides in your posture, and lingers in the silence, even when your mind has long forgotten. We're talking about trauma, but not in the way the world usually defines it. Because trauma isn't just a story of what happened. It's the story of what your body still remembers. Your nervous system remembers what the mind tries to forget. You might not recall every detail of that difficult chapter in your life. The loss, the betrayal, the fear, the chaos, but your nervous system does. You might not consciously relive the moment, but you still flinch at a tone of voice. You still tense up when someone gets too close. You still wake up tired, jaw clenched, chest tight, without knowing why. That's not weakness, that's biology. There's a powerful book by trauma expert Dr. Bessel van der Kolk titled The Body Keeps the Score, and it captures the truth perfectly. Because trauma doesn't just live in memory, it imprints itself into the body, into muscle fibers, reflexes, breathing patterns, and even digestion. And long after the danger is gone, your body still behaves as if it's not safe. Trauma lives in the freeze, not just the fight. We often talk about trauma in terms of dramatic events, accidents, abuse, disaster. But trauma isn't only about what happened. It's about what didn't get to happen afterward. It's about the grief that never got released, the scream that never left your throat, the tears that had no safe place to fall. Sometimes trauma looks like collapse. Other times it looks like numbness, like getting through life on autopilot, like being functional but never fully alive. And here's the key. Your body is not holding on because it's stubborn. It's holding on because it never had a chance to let go. How trauma shows up in everyday life. Have you ever avoided certain sounds, smells, or places without knowing why? Found your breath tightening during seemingly normal conversations? Felt a sense of dread in your stomach before a holiday, family gathering, or phone call? That's not random. Those are stored responses, your nervous system replaying what once was. And science backs this up. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, learns to fire even when there's no current threat. Your vagus nerve, which governs rest and digestion, stays dormant while your fight or flight system runs the show. And so your body doesn't relax because it hasn't been told it's finally safe. The body's natural way of releasing trauma. Here's something fascinating. In the wild, when a deer escapes a predator, it runs until it's safe and then it shakes. Not out of fear,
but as a built-in way to discharge survival energy. That shaking resets the nervous system. But humans, we don't shake. We suppress. We stay strong. We carry on. And the body pays the price. Not because it's weak, but because it's wise. It's holding on to something we never had the chance to feel. But here's the miracle. The body also knows how to release, if we let it. Somatic healing, listening from the inside out. In both modern therapy and ancient Buddhist practices, we find the same wisdom. To heal trauma, you don't just talk about it. You feel it. You let the body become part of the conversation again, not by reliving the trauma, but by reconnecting to what the body felt in that moment and allowing it to move through. This is the heart of somatic healing. It means feeling where the tension lives without judgment. Breathing into that place, not to force change, but to make space. Moving gently. Yoga, stretching, or trembling, whatever your body needs. Because when energy is allowed to move, it no longer needs to hide. The practices that help the body let go. Here are a few powerful techniques rooted in both ancient wisdom and modern science. 1. Natural tremor release. There's a therapeutic technique called TRE, Trauma Release Exercises, developed by Dr. David Berceli. It guides the body into a state of natural controlled shaking. This mimics the discharge that wild animals use to reset their system. The result? Deep relaxation, emotional release, and often a surprising sense of peace. 2. Breath as a bridge. In Buddhist tradition, anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, is a foundation for healing. Why? Because breath is the only part of your nervous system you can control voluntarily. Slow, deep breathing activates the vagus nerve, shifts the body into rest and digest mode, signals to the brain you're safe now. A few minutes a day of conscious breath can begin to change how trauma lives in your body. 3. Trauma-sensitive yoga. Unlike fast-paced flows, trauma-sensitive yoga focuses on agency and awareness. You choose how deep to go. You stay present with sensation. You move gently, slowly, and intentionally. Studies from Harvard Medical School have shown this form of yoga can be more effective than medication in treating PTSD symptoms. Not because it erases memory, but because it rewires your body's relationship to it. The power of compassion in trauma healing. One more thing, perhaps the most important of all, compassion. Because healing trauma isn't about effort, it's about permission. Permission to feel, permission to soften, permission to love the parts of you that once felt unsafe. If you've blamed yourself for how your body has responded, for freezing, for shutting down, for avoiding, please know this. That was your nervous system doing its best. That was survival. That was wisdom. But now it's time for something new. Not a fight, not a fix, but a reunion. And compassion is the bridge. When you meet your body with kindness, it begins to trust you again. It begins to let go. Let's practice right now. Before we move forward, try this with me. Place one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Close your eyes and say, gently, silently, I see you. I hear you. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to love you. And notice what rises. Maybe a sigh, maybe tears, maybe silence. Whatever comes, let it come. This is not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough. Final thoughts. You were never broken. So many of us walk through life carrying trauma like a shadow we've forgotten to name. But you were never broken. You were surviving. And now you're waking up. Waking up to the wisdom of your own body, to the truth that healing doesn't begin with punishment, but with presence. It's not about going back to who you were before the pain. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be, not in spite of your scars, but because of them. Next, we'll explore how the present moment itself, when fully inhabited, can become your most powerful medicine. Let's keep going.
Part 6. The Healing Power of Present Moment Awareness. Take a moment. Let go of trying to get anywhere. Let go of trying to figure anything out. And just be here, right now. Because that's what this chapter is about. Not what you've been through, not what might happen next, but what's happening now. This breath, this heartbeat, this moment. It sounds simple, almost too simple. But what if the most powerful healing you're searching for isn't hidden in some complex ritual, expensive program, or future achievement? What if it's already here? The mind's favorite escape, anywhere but now. Let me ask you something. How often are you fully present in your own life? Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually present? Not thinking about what happened yesterday, not worrying about what might fall apart tomorrow, just here. According to a Harvard study, the average person spends 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're doing. Almost half your life lived somewhere else. And here's the kicker. The more time your mind spends wandering, the less happy you feel. It doesn't matter if you're doing something enjoyable or not. If you're not mentally there, your sense of fulfillment disappears with your attention. Why the present moment is the safest place you know. Most of our suffering doesn't come from what's happening. It comes from our thoughts about what's happening, or worse, from what might happen. We time travel constantly, regretting the past, projecting into the future, clutching stories, bracing for outcomes. And the body tightens because it thinks we're in danger. But here's the truth. In this exact moment, you are safe. You're breathing. The ceiling is not falling. The ground is still beneath your feet. There is no tiger chasing you. Just this breath. Just this now. And when you return to the now, your body finally exhales. Your nervous system finally softens. Your heart finally feels held. Presence is not a luxury. It's your medicine. Mindfulness isn't a spiritual trend or a wellness buzzword. It's biology. It's ancient. It's essential. Practicing presence has been shown to lower blood pressure, reduce anxiety, improve focus, enhance emotional regulation, and even increase gray matter in areas of the brain responsible for memory and self-awareness. Think about that. By doing less, by simply being, your brain literally changes for the better. You become more resilient, more grounded, more alive. Not because you added more to your plate, but because you finally tasted what it means to slow down. Healing doesn't require a meditation cushion. Now, some people think, I don't have time to be mindful. I'm too busy to meditate. Or, my life is too chaotic for stillness. But presence isn't about removing yourself from life. It's about returning to it, fully. You don't need to climb a mountain to find peace. You just need to show up for the moment you're already in. You can practice mindfulness while washing dishes, walking to the mailbox, brushing your teeth, drinking your morning coffee, listening, truly listening to someone speak. Every ordinary task becomes a doorway. Every moment becomes sacred when you actually live inside it. The snow globe analogy. Here's an image I love to share. Your mind is like a snow globe. When you shake it, thoughts, worries, fears, it's chaos. You can't see clearly. Everything is swirling. But when you place the snow globe down and wait, the flakes begin to settle. Clarity returns. Stillness doesn't erase your life. It reveals it. And from that place, decisions become easier, emotions feel less overwhelming. The world slows to a pace you can breathe in. A moment that changed me. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a time when I became obsessed with fixing my life. I had a spreadsheet for everything. Morning routines, supplements, books to read, goals to accomplish. Every day felt like a performance. And yet, despite all my efforts, something inside me still felt tired. Then one morning, I sat under a tree I'd planted years earlier. Not to meditate, not to be productive, I just sat. The breeze brushed against my skin. Birds moved through the branches. My breath deepened without me trying. And in that moment, something shifted. I felt whole. Not because I had achieved something, but because I had finally arrived. In myself. In the now. In life. Why this works? From a neuroscience lens. When you focus on the present moment, your brain quiets the default mode network, the part responsible for overthinking, rumination, and negative loops. Instead, your brain switches into a state of calm attentiveness. You become more responsive, less reactive. This isn't philosophy, it's physiology. Your breath becomes a signal to your body that it's okay to rest, to digest, to heal. And the beautiful part? You don't need an hour. Even 2 minutes of deep presence can begin the shift. Try this tonight, the 2-word practice. Here's a simple practice. Before bed, sit down for just 3 minutes. No phone, no music, no multitasking. Just sit and breathe. With each inhale, silently say, "Now is." With each exhale, "Is enough." Now is enough. Not because life is perfect, but because this moment holds everything you need to begin again. Let that be your medicine. Reclaiming the real treasure. In Zen, we say, the past is memory, the future is imagination, only the present is real. But most of us live as if the opposite were true. We let the past define our worth. We let the future steal our peace. And meanwhile, this moment slips by, unnoticed. But what if presence is the greatest treasure you've been carrying all along? What if peace isn't something to earn, but something to return to, right here, right now? No striving, no judgment, just you, awake to your own life. You are already different. The fact that you're still here, listening, tells me something. You're already different. You're not chasing shallow fixes. You're not avoiding the discomfort. You're choosing awareness. And that choice, that's rare. That's powerful. That's healing. So the next time your mind starts running, the next time you feel overwhelmed, scattered, disconnected, pause. Put your hand on your heart and say, I am here. I am breathing. And this moment is enough. Because it is. Next, we'll explore something even more powerful than awareness alone, the healing force of purpose. Because your body doesn't just respond to breath, it responds to meaning. Let's keep going. Part 7. Purpose, the fuel for healing and renewal. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Not just awake, but lit from within. Not just surviving your days, but feeling like your presence mattered. In this chapter, we're exploring something that science confirms and the soul has always known. That purpose, however small or quiet, is not just a luxury of the fortunate. It is a medicine. And sometimes it is the very thing that brings the body back to life. Without purpose, we begin to fade. There's a reason why, after retirement, some people seem to decline quickly. Not because they stopped working, but because they stopped feeling needed. When meaning disappears, vitality follows. In a long-term study from Rush University Medical Center, researchers found that individuals with a clear sense of purpose were 2.4 times less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. Think about that. Purpose didn't just make life feel better. It made the brain function better. And it wasn't about changing the world. Some people found purpose in walking their dog every morning, in teaching their grandchild how to bake a family recipe, in checking on a neighbor who lived alone. It turns out, the heart doesn't need something grand to feel alive. It just needs something real. Purpose isn't about achievement. It's about alignment. We've been told that purpose is about doing, about launching the big project, writing the book, changing the world. But true purpose starts with being. You don't need to be famous to be meaningful. You don't need to go viral to be valuable. Sometimes the most healing thing you can offer this world is a single moment of presence. A sincere "how are you?" A hand on someone's back. A meal cooked with quiet care. These things don't make headlines, but they change lives. And here's the truth. Every act of love is a sacred expression of purpose. The illusion of emptiness. If you've ever woken up and thought, "What's the point?" You're not alone. Millions of people carry that quiet ache, especially during transitions. After losing a job, after the kids move out, after a relationship ends, or simply after years of doing without remembering why. That emptiness isn't laziness, it's a signal, a call back to meaning, a reminder that we are not machines, that we were not built for repetition alone. We were built for connection, for creativity, for something larger than the sum of our routines. Healing begins when we matter to ourselves and others. Dr. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." He saw firsthand that people who held on to a sense of purpose, whether it was to reunite with a loved one, to complete a work, or simply to maintain human dignity, were far more resilient, even in unthinkable conditions. We are wired to need a reason. And when we lose that reason, the body often speaks up. Fatigue, depression, illness. It's not just biology, it's biography. Your body reflects the story you're living, and whether or not it feels worth continuing. Even small purposes heal. So what counts as purpose? Here's what doesn't. It doesn't have to be profitable. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It doesn't have to make sense to others. Purpose is anything that makes you feel useful, connected, and alive. That could be writing one line in a journal each morning, feeding the birds at the park, sending a kind message to someone struggling, planting something in your garden, creating art no one else may ever see. Healing doesn't ask for magnitude, it asks for meaning. And meaning often lives in the smallest of acts. From productivity to presence. In modern culture, we often confuse productivity with purpose, but they are not the same. You can be incredibly productive, checking every box, hitting every deadline, and still feel completely empty. And you can sit quietly with a friend in grief, say nothing at all, and feel like your soul was exactly where it needed to be. So, if you've been burned out by doing, perhaps it's time to return to being. Not being passive, but being present. Not rushing to the next thing, but noticing the meaning already unfolding in this one. Purpose and the nervous system. Here's something fascinating. Having a sense of purpose has measurable biological effects. It can lower cortisol, the stress hormone, boost immune response, regulate blood pressure, increase life expectancy. Purpose protects the body, because when the mind believes it's needed, the body responds with vitality. You breathe deeper, you move with more intention, you eat with more care, you sleep with more peace. Because you matter. Try this, the one-line purpose practice. If you're not sure what your purpose is, that's okay. Try this simple practice. Every morning, before the noise begins, write down one sentence that answers this. Today, I want to bring more of this into the world. It could be peace, kindness, truth, patience, laughter, healing. Then ask yourself, what's one way, one small way I can live this today? You don't need a grand vision. You just need one thread of meaning to hold on to. And from there, the thread becomes a path. And the path becomes a life. Purpose can change, and that's okay. Your purpose in one season might not look like the next. When you were younger, it might have been about building a career. Now it might be about nurturing relationships or healing what's inside. There's no right purpose, only real ones. Let them evolve. Let them surprise you. Let them find you as you return to what truly matters. Closing reflection. You are the meaning. So many people are waiting for the moment when they'll feel worthy, waiting for a sign, waiting for life to begin. But you don't have to wait. Your breath is already here. Your heartbeat is already showing up for you. Your body is listening, asking only for something meaningful to move toward. So give it that. Give it a reason. Not a big one, just a true one. Because when your soul feels useful, your body begins to bloom. In the next part of this journey, we'll talk about what happens when you stop resisting life and begin to trust it, not just with your mind, but with your whole being. Let's keep walking.
Part 8. The Placebo Effect. How the Mind Heals the Body. Let's begin with a question that might seem strange. What if belief, just belief, could heal you? Not as some magical thinking, not as denial, but as a biological truth. In this part of the journey, we'll explore something both science and ancient wisdom agree on. The mind has a profound influence over the body, and when harnessed with awareness, it becomes a powerful force for healing. The surgery that changed everything. Let's go back to a remarkable medical study. In the early 2000s, a group of patients suffering from severe knee pain underwent what they thought was standard arthroscopic surgery. Some of them had the real procedure. Others received a placebo surgery. The surgeon simply made small incisions and stitched them up again without actually operating inside. Here's the twist. Both groups improved equally. The patients who thought they had surgery reported the same relief from pain, greater mobility, and even resumed normal activities, just like those who received the real operation. Why? Because the belief that they had been healed triggered their bodies to begin healing. Their brains released endorphins, natural painkillers. Their inflammation reduced. Their gait improved. Not because of metal tools, but because of mental tools. The mind as a healing agent. This isn't a one-off anomaly. Study after study confirms it. When a person believes a treatment will help them, the body often responds as if it already has. It's called the placebo effect. And it's not just in your head. It's in your bloodstream, your hormone levels, your immune system, your neurological wiring. When you expect healing, your brain releases dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, anti-inflammatory cytokines, all of which play direct roles in recovery, mood, and physical well-being. The power of meaning. In Buddhist psychology, there's a teaching that overlaps beautifully with this. The mind precedes all things. With our thoughts, we make the world. When we approach the body with care, reverence, and belief in its capacity to heal, we activate a process that is both sacred and scientific. The placebo effect, in essence, reveals something simple and profound. Meaning matters. Expectation matters. Trust matters. Not because we wish it to be so, but because the body listens. The dark mirror, the nocebo effect. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. If positive belief can heal, negative belief can harm. This is called the nocebo effect. In one study, participants were told a small electric current would be passed through their heads. They were then hooked up to harmless wires. No current was ever delivered. But 80% of participants reported real pain. Some even experienced headaches, nausea, and dizziness. Why? Because fear and expectation of harm triggered stress responses in the brain. The body prepared for damage even though none occurred. In other words, your body doesn't just react to what's real, it reacts to what it believes is real. So what do we do with this power? We don't ignore doctors, we don't deny science, we don't use belief to bypass reality. But we include the mind as part of the healing journey. Here's how. Step 1. Identify limiting beliefs. Many of us walk around with unconscious scripts like, "I'll never get better. This pain will always be with me. Healing is for other people, not me. I'm broken beyond repair." These aren't facts. They're mental habits, often learned from early experiences, cultural conditioning, or years of suffering. And every time you repeat them, your body listens. So ask yourself gently, is this belief helping my body feel safe? Does this belief open a door or shut it? Once you recognize a limiting belief, you can begin to rewrite it. Step 2. Nurture rooted hope. We're not talking about naive positivity. We're talking about rooted hope, a hope grounded in the body's history of resilience. Your body has survived heartbreak, illness, loss, loneliness, and yet here you are still breathing, still listening, still becoming. So instead of telling yourself, "I'm broken," what if you whispered, "I'm learning how to listen to my healing"? Let that be your new belief, not a fantasy, but a faith in your biology's wisdom. Step 3. The relationship that heals. One often overlooked factor in the placebo effect is this: the quality of the relationship between healer and patient. When a person feels seen, heard, and believed, healing accelerates. Trust, empathy, and connection amplify belief, and belief amplifies biology. That's why communities, coaches, spiritual teachers, and compassionate doctors can create environments where healing becomes contagious. So ask yourself, who helps you feel possible again? Who reflects back your capacity, not just your condition? Lean into those people. Let their belief in you remind you of your own. Step 4. Embody belief through ritual. Belief isn't just an idea, it's a practice. Even small rituals help reinforce positive expectation. Try saying a healing affirmation while taking your vitamins, lighting a candle before bed and repeating, "My body knows how to restore," breathing deeply and thanking your body after each meal, journaling one way your body showed up for you today. These are small acts, but they tell your nervous system, "I trust you. I'm on your side. We're in this together." And that changes everything. Closing reflection: the most powerful medicine. So what's the most powerful medicine? Is it pills, surgery, supplements? Or is it the space between your thoughts and your cells, where belief shapes biology? The truth is, healing doesn't begin in the hospital. It begins in the heart. When you stop fighting your body, when you start trusting its intelligence, when you begin to believe, not blindly, but boldly, that something inside you still knows how to bloom, that's when things shift. So tonight, as you close your eyes, ask yourself not "what's wrong with me?" but "what does my body need me to believe right now?" And then listen, softly, tenderly, without pressure. Because beneath all the layers of fear and fatigue, your body is still listening and waiting for your mind to say, "I believe in you."
You don't need to be fixed. You just need to come home. Take a soft, deep breath with me. Not the kind you force, but the kind that comes when you finally stop trying so hard and simply let yourself be. Let me offer you something that might challenge everything you've believed about healing. You are not something broken that needs to be fixed. You are something sacred, waiting to be remembered. Healing is not about doing more. We live in a world that worships effort. Push harder, fix it, improve it, be better. But healing, real healing, doesn't always come from doing more. Often, it comes from doing less, from being still, from listening inward, from softening into the moment. You don't heal by adding more pressure. You heal by removing what was never yours to carry. You don't come home by sprinting faster. You come home by pausing long enough to realize you were never truly lost. Your body is not your enemy. So many of us treat our bodies like problems to solve. We get frustrated when they hurt. We resent them for being tired. We criticize their shape. We ignore their whispers until they start to scream. But your body is not the villain. It's the child who never stopped hoping you'd listen. It's the loyal friend who's carried your every unspoken ache, the silent witness to your grief, your joy, your shame, your longing. It has never betrayed you. It has only ever tried to protect you. So instead of asking, "How do I fix this?" maybe the real question is, "How can I finally listen?" Coming home is the medicine. One of the deepest truths I've learned, through experience, through practice, through study, is this: healing is not a destination, it's a return. A return to what has always been inside you, but got buried under the noise, the wounds, the roles, the expectations. You're not here to become someone new. You're here to come back to the one you've always been. And that self isn't broken, isn't defective, isn't behind. That self is wise, tender, capable, and already whole. Imagine this. Imagine if you approached your healing like a reunion, not a repair job. Imagine if every ache in your body was not an interruption, but a conversation waiting to happen. What would change if you met yourself not with force, but with presence? Not with critique, but with compassion? What if, just for today, you stopped trying to fix and simply sat beside yourself as a loving witness? Because sometimes all we truly need is to feel seen, even by ourselves. Your body is a truth teller. The body doesn't lie. It doesn't care about social masks. It doesn't care about whether others approve. It speaks in tightness, in tears that rise unexpectedly, in the weight on your chest when something isn't right, in the warmth in your belly when you're safe. The body is honest. So when it hurts, don't shame it. Ask it. What are you trying to tell me that I haven't yet heard? What truth have I avoided that you've been holding for me? What part of me is finally ready to come home? Because no matter how long it's been ignored, the body never stops hoping for reunion. You were never meant to heal alone. If this journey has touched you, if something inside you stirred as you listened, know this: you don't have to walk this path alone. There are others, maybe even here in the comments, who carry similar aches, similar longings, similar moments of silent courage. And in speaking gently to ourselves, we learn to speak gently to others. In healing our own nervous systems, we become a safe space for someone else to rest. And together, we begin to shift the culture, from shame to compassion, from hiding to honoring, from fixing to coming home. A gentle invitation. If this video has been a soft place for your heart to land, I invite you to take that softness into the rest of your day. Not to do anything dramatic, but maybe to walk a little slower, breathe a little deeper, place a hand on your chest and say, "Thank you, I'm listening now." And if this message resonates, if it feels like something your soul has been waiting for, I invite you to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, gentle, mindful, real. Share this with someone whose body might also be tired of being misunderstood. Comment below. What part of your healing journey are you returning to now? I'd love to read and walk beside you in that. Final words: you were never broken. So here we are. After all the symptoms, after all the trying, after all the questions and searching, maybe the most radical act of healing is not becoming something better, but simply believing that you are already enough. You are already home. You are already whole. No fixing needed, just remembering, just returning,
just loving yourself back to life.